Hello and welcome back. We're now in the final stretch of 2026. And could it get more exciting than this? Now, some of you are following Candace Owens, and I think if you're probably linked to my YouTube algorithm or chain or however they produce this, you've probably been watching the gals back and forth. So today I want to talk a little bit about gaslighting, the truth, and how that all ties down into the dumbing of America. And as we move forward, why math and science really matter. We're going to bring on up the man of the hour, Gary. We're going to talk a little about Baron and Colin as well. And we're just kind of quickly move through this from a practical standpoint. So, again, everything we're talking about right now is for you to build your company starting in 2026 or leveraging it in 2026 so that you can make a change for a lifetime for your family, generational. This is not the time to have a job for somebody else. This is a time for you to build what is yours. I walked in on my son yesterday. He was on an Instagram channel that he'd been uploading thank you notes on. And I said, come on, there's like a million of them already. And he said, yeah, but I'm following this guy. And he said to make sure that you thank your audience. So he's sending a million of them. And I said, well, at some point, people aren't going to thank you anymore, look for your content unless you drop some actual content in there. He says, no, mom, this is the thing. Is it really the thing? I don't think he quite gets it. But the next conversation was even more important. And this is where you and I really need to connect. If you're working for somebody else in this situation, if he was building up somebody else's Instagram channel, then at some point he gets right sized or he moves on. And all that work to build up that Instagram, I guess their channel accounts, would be given to somebody else. All his time and effort and all the revenue that would come in from any of the recognition or the product sales or the links or the clicks to others, that would all be built and then left as a gift for somebody else. Now, many organizations pay for that, but they'll pay once versus the recurring value that you will have for the rest of your life. This isn't meant to be something that's really challenging. If you're doing it in your daily life, that means that somebody needs it done and it is worth something out there. Make sure that you're doing it for yourself and you're the somebody. And as we build your business, whether you continue to stay a solo entrepreneur or you branch out and hire the right people, it's going to be very, very key in this direction to identify core individuals that are going to support your vision, your values, and your integrity. So today, again, I want to talk a little bit about remote work. Now, overall, my opinion on this, no, hasn't shifted. And I've gone on interviews, especially in the HR space, where they've asked me, well, what do you feel about HR? And nobody likes my response. And I'm telling you up front, nobody likes my response, except for one individual, the CEO. Why not? HR has a hard time retaining talent if they can't give people a longer leash. But when we look at the productivity, no, people cannot work from home. Now, I'm not saying, let's say you have 5 days and 5 days in a work week, Monday through Friday, 2 weeks back to back. And maybe you shuffle in a few work from home hours or work from home days. But I guarantee that those days are not nearly as productive as the days in the office. And if they're not, then you need to re-examine your office culture. Because there's something dynamic about individuals who come together, work together, and build an idea together. The value of competition, hearing other people solve problems, the energy that's created is very different than one person alone in their office. Unless they're truly dedicated, entrepreneur, building their own business with their own goals, where it makes sense whether or not they're going to eat or not. But if somebody is just paid for the hour and is counting on those paychecks, you're not getting the same workload out of them, yet your competitor has figured out a better way to do it. So looking at remote work really needs to be carefully crafted. And no, I don't agree with spying on your employees. You don't have the camera on all day long. that can get embarrassing. And it's just not appropriate. We don't have to live in a Big Brother state. No, you don't have to do keyword monitoring or strokes. That's a lack of trust for your employees. What you need to do is set up a work environment for everybody to win and stick to it. If you are the leader in the organization, you need to set the bar so that people can mirror what you're doing. Show up, be heard, allow camaraderie. This is where we're going. Now, are there instances where individuals can work from home? Well, even in a call center, calls come streaming in. However, when Intuit had their call center in the Philippines, you'd constantly hear chickens in the background. It made a point of laughter because at my house, outside my office, I also at that time had 6 chickens. So we would joke about that. But the thing is, I went through one training class, which was an excellent training class, and I think it was probably about 6 weeks. But after that, there was zero improvement. There was zero improvement because I wasn't shadowing anybody else. If I made a mistake, I continued to make the same mistake over and over and over again, and nobody helped me to improve. And as challenges came in, it was up to me to figure out the challenges. This is very different than being in an office where you have a whiteboard, a blackboard, and challenges will be posted. Communication goes back and forth. You hear somebody else on the phone. You hear them around the water cooler saying, hey, these are the top 5 challenges today. Now that list went out. It was DM via Slack, but it didn't mean anything. It was 5 or 6 words. So you're not serving the customer. Now, I will say again, that an extremely high percentage of the customers who had to call in were calling in because the day before their software worked. The last 6 months, the last 10 years of software worked. And then that night, software engineers had gone in and changed the code in one area, and it broke the waterfall effects to the other areas. This is just really key. Now, for anybody who really needs to understand the quality of the workers being hired, step into a management role. Walk onto one of the open campuses in your area. Now, most areas did not go down the slope that we went. But let's say you're here in Silicon Valley and you want to walk on a Google campus or Facebook Meta campus, any of those in this area, you're going to see a very different culture. And I can't say that it's improved. Now, you might see from my background that I've got a curtain hanging and so unfinished walls. I don't know if you can see that on this side now, maybe the other one there, that as I move the camera back and forth, I paid somebody to recreate this space for me to make sure that it was show ready. They said they were done and went to Mexico. They were done. And this was about a year ago. And I have not had time to just finish it myself. So we are here until we can move forward and find somebody else to wrap up the project. But this is what we see all the time. At the end of the day is done, the money's there, and they're gone. And we're seeing this a lot in the workplace. Remote work is not worth it if you're building a company. You've got to find some kind of a co-working space for people to come together, some kind of a scenario where you've got that energy growing. Now, if people are on the road doing sales, they always have checkpoints. If you have a very strong SMART goal setting structure, SMART, then you can really monitor and hold accountable. But the flip side of that accountability is you have to decide what are the quality of the individuals that you want working with you. Those that overpromise and never deliver, but they're good talkers, they're funny. Do you want the ones that just mess up the sale, never close the sale, overpromise what operations is going to be able to do? And operations is like, what? We've never been able to do this before. We can figure it out, but it's going to take at least a month with AI. Before that, it could have been 9 months. But what we're looking at right now isn't just about remote work for your employer. We're also looking at as you're building careers. Let's say that you're still in a workplace. I did an entire, I think it was a 4-week class on this, how to get promoted as a remote worker. Because as you and I know, those who get paid the most are those who are in the headquarter building, and then it reduces from there. But if you're at home, in your home office, whatever that may be, you're not tied enough to the decisions, to the promotion opportunities that are talked about in the hallway. Your face isn't seen, you're not known. So you'll get overlooked more times than not. And it's a different type of person that sets up an all remote environment. As I have seen, when people think that their faces are being hidden or they don't have to stand up to defend themselves, somehow the honesty or integrity is quite different. So remote work is not the brainchild that we should be having right now. As you're ramping up, hold a tight ship and reward those who show up. The next item I wanted to talk about is the dumbing down of America. This whole work from home and lock the children out of the school, we all know that wasn't for health, that wasn't for our safety, that was for manipulation and gaslighting. Are there times in society where we get sick? Absolutely. Right now, I'm hearing people of all ages that are getting sick with the flu, unlike any flu that they've had in over a decade. It happens, it passes around, but you know what? I have a belief in our body. We can process, we can purge, and we can become stronger again. It may take us down for a few days. We rest up, get a warm drink, and then you move on. We don't need all these chemicals in our body that, as we know, are causing additional side effects that include death. That doesn't even make sense. So the dumbing down of America is putting down one society while pulling up other societies. Now, we never want to, let's say that we go to a high school football game. People jest and joke from one end of the, stadium steps group. And then the other side, usually the visitors is smaller. And you might joke back and forth, but you defend your side. You don't start defending the other side. And you don't just walk on the field and give the ball to the other players and tell your team to stand down. Somehow politics has become a sport, but it's been a sport on Polymarket where people are gaming the field, betting on it, and winning big. This dumbing down of America has hurt us greatly over the last many decades. And unfortunately, it's a deep hole to get out of. And if we look, I'm going to show this real quickly. Oh, you know what? Actually, when I looked at dumbing down of America, let me pop this up real fast so I can show you. It's very interesting. I did a search for a dumbing of America. And here we are. This is Bing today. And look at that right there. 2023. She has a whole presentation, and look what stage she happens to be on. Very interesting. So again, this was 2023. And apparently, according to the organization, she has not done anything with that organization in years and is not part of it. Although she was one of the key founders with Charlie. Okay, I want to move on to this next one. I'm going to do it while the screen is being shown here. The results include data for California assessment and student performance and progress, English language proficiency assessments, and math and science is what I'm looking at. Let me just pull this up. This is California Department of Education, and this is their news release. What day was this? This was October of 2024. I searched and I didn't get one from 2025 yet, so I may have overlooked that. But this is really key because we have Silicon Valley here in the San Francisco Bay Area. Look at this. English language proficiency is down below 30% for level 1. That means 2 out of 3 students in the classroom don't have an English language proficiency level. 2 out of 3. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry, I'm reading this chart wrong here. It's even worse than that. Level 4 is advanced grade level knowledge and skills. Number 4. So it's 4 out of 5 kids. I apologize for that. This is why I need to get glasses and wear them. In fact, do I have any here? No, I don't have any in the office here. Okay, so we're right here. We've got 1 out of 5, or if we flip that over, 4 out of 5 are not at an advanced grade level. Now, in Silicon Valley, in a first world country, how can this happen? And yet, if we flip down here, we have 1 out of every 3 students isn't even at a grade level for English. And I'm actually surprised, and that's why I said it before, that I thought was the other way, because as I step out my front door, there's very few individuals that have English as their first language anymore. If we slide over here to math, again, math and science are the key. And yet, what have we seen with science over the last few years? So math is down here at 40% inconsistent. So that's 4 out of 10. If we look up here, I think that's 17%. So we're less than 1 out of 5 kids is actually advanced grade level. And here, if we go to science, which we know to follow the science, which has all been gaslighting, less than 10% are advanced. In California, with the resources we have, with computers on every desk and AI helping students, why in the world are these numbers still so low? And I guarantee if I were to pull up the 2020, it would be significantly worse. The reason was these kids were locked at home for so many years. And teachers would tell me that they wouldn't even start learning pods on the side or help tutor students because it was unfair to the other students that didn't have a possibility to be part of those pods. They held everybody back. In order to be inclusive, everybody fails. This is not acceptable. So I want to move forward the conversation here. I want to talk a little bit about the concept of undercover boss. Now, as we have our education system set up, we know that as long as you show up, and show up as a loose term, you're going to get pushed forward. So as we look in the service industry, we really get a feel for that. I can't name the last time at a restaurant that I was ever offered a glass of water. Now, I know California has restrictions on just putting water on the table, but let's say a fork falls on the ground. There's not going to be a service person to come by and give you a clean one. But you know what is high? The demand for big tips. Everybody wants a huge tip just for showing up. Do you remember when tips were normally around 10%? And if you tipped in advance, it was to ensure proper service, making sure that people knew that you just wanted it taken care of and you were willing to pay for it. Now it doesn't matter. Mom and pop shops are going out. People are having a hard time hiring. Expenses are up. And the quality of the individuals that they're hiring, just not cutting it. So the concept of undercover boss comes to mind. All these individuals who are getting the shaft, really, when it comes to quality education, eventually want to work somewhere. And of course, as you and I know, undercover boss puts on a costume and goes out into the different workplaces and locations that they have and see the truth of what's going on for themselves. It's not filtered through managers or general managers or filtered through boards, but they actually get to see and hear what the frontline workers are doing. Now, I'm a proponent. I do not understand why the further you get away from the actual product or service, the more you make. Somehow there's a flippant reward system. More education gets you away from that. And yet, really, the individual who is serving the food, the individual who is selling the pants, the individual right there at the front lines with the customer that makes sure the customer gets what they want, they're happy what they want, and they want to return. That whole package of customer service is extremely important. And yet it's so discounted. Remember all the years we would call into organizations and the individuals answering the phone didn't even understand the language? In this case, it would primarily be English in the United States. And in other countries, I just never saw that. Anybody who answered the phone was out of the local language. But for some reason here, United States just couldn't figure that out. So then we moved into robots, and it gets worse. You just can't talk to anybody anymore. But that key role, why was it discounted so much and paid so little? It just never made sense for me. Hire quality talent and place them in all areas of your business, and you'll see it thrive. So undercover boss is what I wanted to kind of talk about the concept, because in this case, Candace Owens went on vacation for 2 weeks. She dropped a bomb, something that was so wild and crazy that everybody said this is ridiculous. Quite honestly, even she gave multiple warnings and said she wasn't sure it was true. And on one account, she thought, hey, 50-50. And yet while she's been gone, there's been so much arguing back and forth and outproving everybody and getting the time that would be allocated to her that it's been proven. So I want to show the next few here. Let's see if I can go back over here. Now, again, I know all of you are seeing these same ones, but it's been really interesting. Here we have Coach Colin. Apparently he was a comedian. He's just a calm dude, kind of in a space like mine, probably a room in his home. He's consistent. He's just kind of been goofy, which the comedian. But you know what? He has hit this out of the park time and time again. And once again today, he really highlighted the turning point, no pun, of the evidence rolling in. So I Am Coach Colin is one to maybe keep an eye on. As Candace Owens just dropped major receipts and torched her critics, everybody was coming after her. And quite honestly, it was disgusting. The threats against her have been crazy. And yet, being in that position, she's faced much worse. She beefed up her security and continues to move forward with the truth. She has value, she has integrity, and she's not stopping until she solves this crime. And yes, it is a crime. And it was a crime that was committed in front of all of us, meant for all the world to see, both live and streamed live. They made sure of it. And her question is, they could have done this privately. It could have been a mystery, but no, they were so bold. They wanted this done publicly. Now it's going to be solved publicly. So as you know, she had dropped information about a specific individual with a questionable past, as he had even stated himself, about a specific location and a time that he happened to be at. Now, the mockery started because she stated she had prayer, and God answered her prayer with this email. And so she reached out and started down this pathway. So there's mockery there about dreams or prayers without having a true understanding of the specific location, the specific military base that actually specializes in psychological operations. And as we saw on other communications, also more than likely focuses on remote viewing. They probably call it something else, but it's there. And so as she was out, everybody was playing behind her back. So let me pull this up one more time here. So that's Coach Colin. So then we have, this is actually Baron Coleman. Baron does an opening statement. He's an attorney. He does an opening statement and then rolls into what evidence he's put together. And then he does several hours of accepting money in exchange for answering questions. I don't hang around for that. But he pulled up, which is the same thing that Colin talked about, Coach Colin, Mitch Snow's son. And the funny thing, this isn't really just about Mitch Snow's son. It's really about raising the bar. Gary here got some private information, had a private text, took that information, showed it live, and ended up solving the case. And I had, let's see here. There was a tweet that followed up from Baron, and I'm not getting tweets on here today, that stated that nobody over the last week has done more to help solve this case than Gary. The reason being is Gary got Andrew Colvett in order to show the behind the scenes manipulations with podcasters. Now, we know from the other side, podcasters going into the election were being offered $7,000 to start, $100,000 moving forward, to sprinkle in natural language to make it seem like their organic content, their organic thought process, in order to manipulate the viewers. We don't know what the payment here, but somehow Gary got Andrew Colvett's text number, and Andrew was watching the show and texted him information or responded to the text and texted it. I'm not sure the whole flow that said, do not share. The problem is the information was answering the wrong question. But meanwhile, in order to pull up his bootstraps and fix this to the next day, he brought on this gentleman who happens to be Mitch Snow's son. And in doing so, he admitted that his father, who is a loose term for him, that Mitch Snow was on the military base the day that he said he was, because the military police, or whoever that role is, contacted him as the emergency contact to verify who he was. So yes, in fact, well, Gary solved the mystery on both cases. So again, Patriot Tactical there. Okay, so I want to talk again. The other day we talked about signs of a sociopath in your life. And this is really the world that we seem to live in right now. And it looks like we're not going to be able to move away from sociopaths. At this point, they seem to be everywhere. They're running the school districts. They're with our children. They're in the churches. They're, of course, in government, attorneys, politicians, long-term staffers, might even be one in the house with you. This sociopath seems to be more mainstream than what we'd like. So what we need to do is go back to a concept of critical thinking. Now, for anybody who went to law school, you had logic classes. And as you mapped out the sentences, you would say this is not always logical. But the flow of the sentences is very different. And you could match people's reasoning by following the words or the sentences. People don't write as much anymore. So on the fly, to understand what somebody is saying and tie the concepts together becomes very, very important. But I did want to click on this one over here that says 6 sly ways of a gaslighter. Gaslighting has received popular attention, but relatively little empirical research. A new paper traces the history of gaslighting and compares relevant theoretical perspectives. It all boils down to 6 basic tactics that allows gaslighters to have their power over the victims. Now, I had mentioned that one of my supervisors had gaslighted in all directions. And she had a playbook that we could follow. So we knew the step-by-step she was working through. We had labeled her, or I had labeled her as a pathological liar. And with every step, that was proven more and more. The thing is, she was put in a team with all individuals who had to have an advanced degree to be there. And within rapid requirement, pass a series of hoops and tests. So not only were we logical, we could learn things quickly, and we already had advanced degrees. So then this individual was brought in to try to gaslight us. The challenge is part of the manipulation, when she couldn't get rid of people, as she got to me, she became very frustrated. She said, "Why is it that you always act professionally? You never get angry and you never raise your voice." Okay. So you know what my reward was for that? A performance improvement plan. And so my response was, "Thank you. Now I understand what you're thinking, what your expectations are, and now I can deliver to your standards." Except as I reviewed the performance improvement plan step by step, I was able to, like any employee, although I do have expertise in data analytics, all employees had access to these tools if they wanted to look. So I went in and looked at the metrics and compared them with line after line. And every single one was a lie. Every one. They were made up numbers. And you could tell they were changed on the spreadsheet. But being part of a team, and teams are competitive, other teams had posted the scores for everybody. Their managers had lined everybody up, and I would always be the top 1 or 2 people for the whole department, not just the team. So I would show up on every list. So I now had a second point of comparison showing that the information or the data that was placed in my performance improvement plan was 100% false. And HR informed me that it really doesn't matter. Whatever the manager says is what goes. And HR took it a step further and informed me that they don't understand the numbers anyway, so it wouldn't even help if I walked them through it. What kind of employee do you think you're going to keep long term when you treat them like that? And yet, because the supervisor had made sure she not only isolated and attacked each of us as individuals, she also went upstream to her management and their management and got us banned from going to any other manager, any other department, and got us on lists to be removed. And once you're on a removal list, it's imminent. Now, I was able to outlast that for several years, while others were just forced to remove. Ultimately, individuals were told, look, the deal is you're getting off-ramped. Either take the bonus or take the package, or you're going to be terminated. So when that same offer came to me, every time I would say, okay, please go ahead and email me what the package is, because I wanted that in writing, knowing that 100% of the employees before me that had gone through the same playbook manipulation had not gotten one penny. And as soon as they were pushed out, they had signed some kind of an NDA and the company wouldn't talk to them anymore. And that's one of the biggest mistakes I believe the company made in messing around and not just removing the problem. They didn't offer me anything. Well, they offered me verbally, but they wouldn't put it in writing. And if they would have put it in writing, I may have considered. But I also didn't sign an NDA. There is no restriction on my conversations. Now, although I have pending court cases against them, there's still no request for silence, which has been very odd as well. Either at the other levels, they don't know how to do their job, or there's something even deeper going on. So as we look at gaslighting and control, major landmarks in gaslighting history, and boiling it down into gaslighting's 6 components, I'm going to read those 6 components to you. Manipulation of reality. These tactics include lying, outright lying, questioning perceptions. Did you really see that? Oh no, this isn't what you saw. This is what it was. And the data's changed. Thoughts, reactions, memories, manipulating the environment to create confusion. By the end of the day, I felt like work was a contact sport. I felt like I was constantly pulling knives out of my back. The attacks were constant. And yet, confrontation after meeting after meeting, not confrontation, but meeting after meeting with other peers or with clients, I put a smile on my face and moved through the day. Changing the jacket. Number 2, that was manipulation of reality. Number 2, denial, refusing to acknowledge facts, even when there is evidence to the contrary. Here's the evidence. Facts matter. Dismissing and minimalizing this shifts responsibility from the perpetrator to the victim. That's your fault. You just made this up. Well, it's your fault. I didn't change anything. This is a lot right here of what we're seeing in the X threads as well. Shifting the blame and moving it. And then when somebody gets called out, they've got a whole nother motive. It really doesn't even have to do with this conversation. 3, inconsistency of behavior. Keeping the target off kilter by making them unsure of what to expect. Lies or truth or love or abuse. That constant manipulation that seems bipolar. Isolation. Coercing the victim to spend less time with family and friends, therefore cutting off sources of support and views of reality. We see this a lot in tech companies where individuals are required to be in the office long hours or work long hours. They have minimum time for any of their family or friends. They're asked to do special projects over holidays. But you know what's interesting? As you and I might have asked for 2 weeks off and often had to balance that with other coworkers, how is it that those on H-1B visas would take 2 to 3 months off at a time? They'd just be gone. There'd be no communication with them while they were gone to other countries. And did you know, additionally, they would pull their child out of school and have them be educated still? In this case, the California taxpayer would pay for their education while they were in other countries because they could not be removed and they had to do independent study. And they could be there the whole year. So isolation, coercing the victim to spend less time with family and friends. And it's unbalanced. Coercion, making the target feel that it's necessary to come to a resolution to restore peace and stability within the relationship. Don't we hear this all the time? Come on, let's just forget about it. Let's all be friends. We can't fight anymore, while they're punching you in the mouth. The abuse plays on the target's fear of being left out or abandoned. And before I go on to number 6, this is a point we all have to understand. In what I have seen, the most abusive and the most codependent relationship I have ever seen, I've ever witnessed, is that of an employee and an employer, where that paycheck, that ability to eat, to take care of their family, to manage their household is manipulated on a daily basis by an employer, because the individual knows they have to deal with the abuse. They have to do the extra work. Otherwise they will lose that opportunity altogether. And the chances of getting another job become slimmer and slimmer with age. Now, if we look at Turning Point USA as an example, you have a bunch of individuals who have now slid in to the Charlie Kirk show. They're still leaving the name up. In fact, if you watch the show, his name is 3 times on the screen. At the top, it'll say his name. In the chyron on the bottom, it'll say his name. On the right side going vertically, they'll show his name. It's all there. And yet none of the people in the chairs are Charlie Kirk. And yet all of those individuals that have slid into those chairs do not have the debate quality, don't have the level of integrity. We've seen this many times before. Nobody ever tuned in to the to the Charlie show in order to listen to anybody else there, except for maybe their mothers. And yet, as we move forward, we are really looking at what does this mean for society? So item number 6, creating self-doubt. For gaslighting to work, the victim must feel put off, guard enough to wonder about their self-worth, if not having their self-worth crumble completely. It is really about ripping that apart. So by the time the employer terminates the employee, there's no more self-esteem. Maybe they weren't a good employee. Maybe they saw the analytics wrong. Maybe they just couldn't work with the team. Maybe they couldn't learn fast enough. Job after job after job of these same games that Silicon Valley plays on people. As you look around and you wonder, how did that person get a job? Why is that person employed? Because we look back to the point of the education in California and we see the bar is extremely low. So then we go back to the recording I did just a few days ago. The Chinese professor, I think he did a great job in that summary. As he really talks from the Chinese family perspective as an immigrant and how that affected the pathway that he was on, we see that people are chosen not necessarily because they have the best education, the best experience, can bring the most to it, but will they play the game? As I've mentioned, the supervisor has been promoted. She now has a team of individuals who mirror her own culture from her own country. And that pushed aside all Americans who had been in that role. Now, before you say that's not fair, if you look up the numbers, and I will show that in another show, you can see how many companies have H-1B visa workers. And on that page, it'll show you by year and by country. And it 100% replaced the American workforce in 3 different locations: at headquarters in Mountain View, in the Boise, Idaho office, and the San Diego office. Push them out in turn for foreigners who play their own game and have their own culture. So I want to go back to facts matter. Facts, evidence, show the truth, shines a light. We need more of this. We don't have the time or the energy to grow with all the games. And so the best way to do this is truly through education, not communist education, where we're teaching children that science and math, whatever close enough or feel good is good enough. That reading, writing are not important. Ask a child to write in cursive or read cursive. It's not going to happen. All these key skills that could help a child with discernment, with understanding who they are and applying truth, not only as they hear it, but as they speak it, have undermined society today. So I think it's funny if you go back and see, again, with Candace gone this week, and the boss was gone, all the players that got involved. And by her dropping the bomb before she went on a 2-week vacation, the truth is really coming out. And quite honestly, it's been a bit embarrassing for those who have realized that they've given up the truth while they thought they were still lying. All right, have a wonderful day today. Enjoy the remaining 2025 as we roll into 2026. See you tomorrow.